I can't hear anything. Oh, I can't hear.
Can you hear me now?
I
How's
can
that?
hear you.
Oh, okay. Let's go back. So 28, subsection 28 and 271 in the Rebbe. We just spoke about before what happens if you make an interruption between hagafen and drinking, or what happens if your wine spilled, what to do. Which in that case it depends. First of all, in both of those cases, you don't have to make kiddush again, being that you actually, even though the question now is you need to make a hagafen on the wine, which generally nowadays it's not really such an issue because you already had in mind other wine to drink during the Suda. So as long as you have other wine, you're fine. If you don't have other wine, your kiddush was still good, and you make the bread. But and the other cases, what if it's spilled? But same thing in both of those cases, the kiddush itself was good, so you don't have to make kiddush again because you didn't make kiddush on a cup of wine. But now, what happens? What if he made kiddush on a cup of water, thinking that it was wine? Now, you have to go back and make kiddush on the wine, because why you make kiddush again? Because it's unlike the other cases that the question is you didn't drink the wine. Here, you didn't have wine in the first place. You made kiddush not on wine. Even though he doesn't have to make a Beir Priyagofen again. Even if it is in such a way that he does not have to make a Gofen again. For example, let's say when he made this Gofen, he was holding water, but he had in mind he's going to drink more wine later. Well, that his Gofen on that wine is good.
Go on that, right?
He can just bring more wine and drink it, which you probably should, but not because of the kiddush part of it, but because he made a hagafen. You got to drink wine. On the other hand, your kiddush itself was not made on wine. You got a problem. So like it says in 209, the that since the even though, like we said before, that from the Torah obligation is to make kiddush on is to say the words of kiddush, and the sages added the part to make it on wine. But since this is a takanas chachamim, so you didn't say it on wine, on water. Yeah, I mean you said it on water, not on wine. You have to go back and make kiddush again. Still in what if he makes kiddush on water, but he has a cup, a revius of wine in another vessel on the table or on the bench next to him? Like let's say he had a cup for kiddush and there was a cup of water, and by accident he picks up the cup of water and makes kiddush on the water instead of the wine. But there's a becher of wine sitting right there. He doesn't have to not to make another hagafen again, and he doesn't have to go make kiddush again. But he just goes right away and drinks from the wine that's sitting in front of him. Because it's like he made kiddush on that wine. Even though in the first place you're supposed to hold the wine in your hand, that's like you explained before, how the author I've explained you should make kiddush and it should be holding in your hand. However, we call makim but it doesn't hold you back but the yavid from fulfilling, right? So like for example, God forbid somebody who has both of his arms in a cast and he couldn't pick up the wine. If he makes kiddush and the wine that's in the cup and picks it up with his mouth and drinks it, he's good. Notes.
Right, but that would even be more of a lechatchila for that guy.
Well, but that's because the b'diavad becomes lechatchila. In other words,
right. I'm saying
is an element of
But we're talking about even if a guy, whatever, he says the kids, but he didn't pick it up off the table, he forgets whatever, it's just there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know because here he says that I'm not sure because he says even though you have to hold in your hand really, If it happened, so I don't know if you didn't intentionally, whatever. You're not a good boy, that's for sure. But
I'm thinking b'diavad, for example. Let's say he picks up the wrong cup. I don't know.
Oh, fine. That's b'diavad. That happened. It wasn't. He didn't intend to do it that way.
I'm saying it's a b'diavad. I'm saying
right.
b'diavad.
He
forgets.
But if he intentionally,
he doesn't pick up the cup for some reason.
He knows that he's supposed to hold it in his hand and he didn't.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
And he intended to do it that way. He's not a good boy. Period.
You know what I'm saying is he starts making kiddush and they're like, wait, the kiddush cup, and they're like, oh right, grab the kiddush cup.
No,
if you already made the bracha,
even
whatever,
if he didn't grab
fine.
it, you say even say you only realize
after.
Happened, not only that, if kiddush was over, and you start sipping it, this isn't the one. Only you should be careful not to say that, even though that's sort of in your kiddush. But he should.
Right, you don't want to interrupt, but right.
And then, grab the other one and drink.
Right. Okay. So the first note is, in fact, just at the beginning, just to start off, that he wouldn't have to say Bar Gafen again because, right, like he had, for example, he's going to make wine, he's going to drink some wine after the kiddush, as can be based on the kunshas achron. This is the ches. No ches. This refers to a situation where the wine is accessible to a person in his house, but not on the table in front of him. Meaning it's in the refrigerator or the wine closet or whatever.
Right, like someone has to bring it to him.
Meaning so it's not in front of him. If it was in front of him, of course it would be obvious. It could go on that wine in front of you. Which that's one of the reasons I heard why some people cover wine during during Kiddush, because they don't want the hagafa to go on it, to not make a pogrom. But again, we discussed that wouldn't actually mess with it. Whatever.
Well, pogrom is actually right. If you drank from it, no, but you can see here that in a sense, like it could be the intention went on the
right. But I'm saying is, wine, if it was in front of him, that'd be obvious. Here we're saying the Kudrash Zakon is saying this is bedavka where it's not by him, it's not in front of him, but still it counts because he's later in the meal that is that he's sitting at, he's going to have wine even if it's not at the table or even in the room. And then he had quoted that section 209.
So meaning if it's in front of him, then even if he didn't have in mind other wine because it's
right to drink later or whatever.
Yes,
that's wine that's there. Right. And which, by the way, as we said before, technically he doesn't even have to be the one to drink it. Someone else could drink the wine.
Right. As long as that person has a full cheek.
Right. You could say the bracha by Pri Hagafen on Kiddush that's in front of you and not drink it. Someone else could drink it as long as they have a malim lugma.
Right. Even though
now we're saying though where it's not in front of you.
Right.
Is it a bracha levatala? Is it a kiddush levatala? Do you have to make kiddush again? Kiddush on something else? Fine, make a shahako, but on something else. But you can't be saying Bar Gafen and kiddush on something that's not even in front of you. So we're saying, not even in front of you, but as long as you had in mind to drink it later in the meal or something, then it's fine. And then again, he brings up in the Kudrash Zakon. So fine. So we mentioned the Kudrash Zakon before, but now saying then we continue and said, he doesn't have to say the Bar Gafen or repeat Kiddush. So the Alter Rebbe in the Kudrash Zakon focuses on his ruling in the main text. If there was a revius of wine before him on the table or a bench near him, there's no need to repeat the Kiddush, and that's based on the Taz, on the Torah's of in Shayin Aleph Yud Tes. So the Alter Rebbe explains that though the wording of the Magen Avraham in Lamed Beis might lead one to dispute this conclusion, it's not certain that the Magen Avraham would not accept this decision. Moreover, he continues, even if Magen Avraham would not agree, the principle that leniency is advised where there's a doubt, suffix brachas lahakel, there's a doubt regarding the recitation of a blessing should be followed.
Right.
So even though the Magen Avraham might not,
even though the Magen Avraham maybe holds that you would make one, but being that we have a valid opinion,
but the Alter Rebbe is saying, you
always follow the one. That's right. That you don't make the bracha in any case where there's a svara that you wouldn't have to make it. Basically, that's a valid.
Don't repeat the kiddush because there is somebody that holds that it's
right.
Yeah,
so better to follow that, not to make another. Yeah.
All right, Chavtes.
Chavtes. Ein tzarich lishbeis mikes hamikadish lekesis yain shlufnei hamisubin hayitz in yedei chayvasim b'shmiya. There is no need to pour wine from the cup of the person who made kiddush into the cups of those who fulfilled their obligation by listening to his kiddush. Elo im kein hayu pegumim, unless they were incomplete, they were pogum, somebody they were drunken from. She'azu tzarich lishbeis the called case v'case kedim sheyitem hu, that then he would pour into each and every cup before he himself tastes. Why? Because once he tastes it, it's pogum. So that everybody should drink from wine that is not a pagum, that is that no people should not be drinking the incomplete cup. This is the best way of doing the mitzvah, which meaning, like we said before, the ideal way is that the person who made kiddush should drink melay lugmav, should drink the cheekful, ideally the whole revi'is, and that every of the other people should taste, not necessarily a malay lugmav, but should at least taste a little bit of wine that is not pagum.
And okay, so the fact that we're talking about, you should be drinking from cups that are not whatchamacallit, not blemished. So in Kuf Pei Beis Sif Aleph, we'll see that it's possible to interpret Alter Rebbe's words here as meaning that since the listeners' cups are blemished, the one making kiddush has to pour wine into their cups before he drinks. Otherwise, he'll not correct that blemish. Right. There is, however, no difficulty in them drinking from the cup of which he recited kiddush, even though he drank from it first. Which Lamaisa, that's the way a lot of people do nowadays in Lubavitch. The Baal Kiddush makes kiddush, and then he hands his cup around.
Yeah, but I don't know if you've seen this. There's something, for example, when I make kiddush, I drink from the kiddush, and that wine goes around to everybody. However, I pour a little bit more into the cup first before I pass it around.
Yeah, so
and I've seen that. I don't know if people don't know that, or maybe I don't know if people don't know that, or there's something I don't know that.
No, so I was going to say I do that also, and that's what I learned. It's better because I think there's what to say. You could do it, but there are opinions that say no, that you should still be making enough.
Right, you're not passing around those
usually
what
I'll do is so what I'll do is I'll drink, and then I add a little, which is why it's always very frustrating when I pour myself a cup of kiddush at a big Shabbos table, multiple people are making kiddush, and then someone grabs the wine. I'm like, wait, no, I still need more wine. Like, don't take it away, because I want to drop afterwards, after I make the bracha. It's like, oh, you're finished, you poured your cup, so they take it. I'm like, no, I still need a little bit, because I want to pour some to make an apagum before I hand it out. But that is interesting.
And then also the other thing, I see people hand the actual cup around. What we do is I pour more into that cup. Right. Then I take that and I pour into another cup that's going to go around, and then they pour from that cup into people's cups rather than everybody drinking from that cup. Now the reason is that way I have my
you're pouring into other pouring cups, right?
Yeah.
And then they're not making a pogum for the next guy.
I'm making that pogum. Then I pour most of it into the cup that's going to go around, but then that cup goes around and pours into the other cups rather than people drinking from it.
Right. And then they're not making a pogum for the next guy,
which is also everybody. Not pogum.
No, but by doing that, you're making it not pogum for the next guy, and you don't have everybody, just sharing the same cup. Everyone gets their own.
In my house, nobody cares if they share the same cup, but it's a matter of it's going to be pogum if they share.
No, what I'm saying is with regards to everybody gets their own non-pogum wine, grape juice.
Yeah,
now, I'm inside Germans. I'm at germs. So
right,
but you'll notice the word, the way they wrote it. It said, the wording they wrote here is there's no difficulty in them drinking from the cup. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the best way, as it says. Note, however, the statements of Alter Rebbe apparently in Kuf Tzaddik. But indeed, it is preferable to do this if possible, because the cup is held by the one who says benching will be impaired once he is drunk from it. Although the impairment could be rectified by adding more wine so that each of those dining could drink, it's preferable for them to drink from the wine of blessing. Oh no, it says recites grace. Maybe we're talking about here. Maybe he actually refers to kiddush. Why does he say the word grace?
Well, he's talking about kaishel bracha.
Kaishel bracha, meaning the one who holds the cup when he says the bracha. Yeah, I don't think he means benching. Yeah, he means the person. Yeah,
right.
So.
Right, it solves these two things. On the one hand, everybody should have from the wine that the kiddush was made on. Is a good thing. On the other hand, it's ideal that everybody should have a cup that's not pugum. So you wanna be able to fulfill both of those aspects.
Right. So yeah. Basically, so he's saying to do it is like the way we're talking about. So basically, it should be from the kiddush cup that the kiddush was made on, but just add a little bit of wine.
Well, or in his case, originally what he's saying is, what he says at face value is to pour off before you drink. Tachlis, I don't see that we do that. I see that we drink and then pour to make it not pogum to sort of fulfill the same thing. But like this, I guess people are drinking from the cup that you drank from as well, the kaisel bracha that was drunk from, but is now been made again not pogum, as opposed to which, by the way, and I've seen people who do it like he says. I've seen people who do it like he says here, that they pour off a little bit first and then drink. But the problem that arises is then you're not drinking from a kaishalim.
Well,
I mean, you make kiddush on a
there's an
kaishalim.
interesting note. There's an interesting note on the next sif. Let's do the next sif. I think we might have a conclusion after the next after Lamed.
Okay. You finished the notes for Chavtaz?
Yeah, that was it. Just the one note.
Fine. Lo yitamu hamasubim kaim shitan hamakadish. In the case that the people need the wine from the guy making kiddush, they should not taste from it before he tastes it. Like, for example, he said before, right, that he's pouring from his cup. Let's say they have cups that are drunken from, and he's pouring to fill to make their cups not pugum anymore. So when he pours into their cups, they need to wait. They shouldn't drink it right away. You need to wait until the guy who made kiddush drinks first. I guess until at least he starts drinking, and not until necessarily until he finishes the whole Malay Lugmav. But he has to have drunk from it, because you were
so don't
on
just
his
say
kiddush,
amen,
and he didn't complete his kiddush until he drank it.
Right. So don't just say amen and then drink your wine.
Right. Wait till he starts drinking it. Which, by the way, that may be one of the reasons why nowadays we do that with the Makadish drinks, and then fills the pugum and pours off. That way, there's no possibility of the other people drinking before he drank. Maybe that has something to do with it. If, however, they had their own cups of wine that were not pugum, right? Like, you see in shul sometimes they put the whole bunch of shot glasses with
pre-pour,
with right, and then he makes kiddush and then they drink their cup. They can then they can even drink it before he's drunk in his wine. Like it explains in 190. Anyways, like I said, generally it seems like our minhag is maybe in shuls. I've seen shuls, even Chabad shuls that do it that way, but in general the minhag by us seems to be that the Makadish first makes kiddush, drinks from the cup, then adds to it so it shouldn't be pogum, and then it gets passed around and poured into other people's cups. So they all also have non-pogum, but they have also wine that was from kiddush, the actual kiddush, and they have wine that the Makadish drank from, but is now not no pogum.
It could also be the difference between whether you make another hagafen or not. As the one note that's on here says from the Bechlal, okay, so that the other people shouldn't drink before the Baal Kiddush makes Kiddush, before he starts drinking. That comes from Psachim, Kuf Vav Amud Aleph. And then it says Rabbi Yosef Weinberg, who is very famous for writing the Shiurim B'Sefer HaTanya and the radio show and everything, Lessons of Tanya.
And related, for Slichas.
And for his davening, his slichas, his chazanos and slichas, related that the Frierdiker Rebbe gave instructions that those fulfilling their obligation by listening to Kiddush recited by another person should recite the blessing over wine themselves, as is Lubavitch custom for Amaitzi, which I think we're talking about this specific case, meaning if they're not having from his case.
Right.
So it would seem
in the case that they're not having from his case,
then everyone should be saying their own hagafen.
Right, also really.
Though I'm not 100% sure about that, because even by Hamaitzi, you're all having a piece of we're not having a separate piece of challah.
That's the ideal way, maybe, but for sure the Ar Yaitz from his hagafen.
Yeah, but he's saying that either way they should make hagafen.
Is that our minhag by challah is that
everyone says Hamaitzi, or what I'm saying is, and even though it's coming from the challah that the Hamaitzi was made of.
Yeah.
So maybe the Frierdiker Rebbe is saying it either way. People should be making their own hagafen. This is very interesting.
I mean, here he doesn't mention the bracha.
I want to run this by
Here he doesn't mention the bracha.
What do you mean? Doesn't mention the bracha?
And not only that, there becomes a question, right? Of the Mekadesh then would have to be very careful that when he's saying his hagafen, he's having in mind not just what he's going to drink, but he's having in mind all that's munach lefanav, basically. But how does he have it in mind, considering he's not intending on drinking it?
don't know. You know what? I'm gonna ask. I want to run this by. I'm gonna ask this to Levi Weinberg. Ask him shilas every now and again. Rabbi Weinberg, who's mentioned, this is his son.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask him. Is this only if drinking wine that's not from the Kiddush cup itself? Also, when drinking from the cup that Kiddush was made on. Yeah, I'm gonna send it to him because he's a very wise Rav, and it happens to be that it's his father that's being quoted. So it's very shaykh that he'll have a little bit of even inside track, like he might actually know context. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, seemingly from this, the best way to do it would be taka to pour out first. But
Right.
yeah, what I've seen always is drink first and then pour, make it not pogum or whatever. I mean,
That's
for sure that's yeah. That's very interesting. I don't know. Okay. Wow. Finish the Siman Baruch Hashem. Okay. So
okay.
now we're going to
Now
Beis base.
272. Hadar Nalach 271. What's it called? So Sif 1. We do not make kiddush on wine that has a bad smell. But it is not changed to being vinegary. It's not soured at all. Rather, only it's taste. In other words, even its smell. Even smell it still smells like it's wine.
Even if the taste is fine, but
it smells bad.
It's just unpleasant.
Yeah.
Even if the taste is fine,
unpleasant.
I think that's what it's saying. Even the taste is fine, but just
the
the
taste
smell
is fine, and you can make baby guffin on it, and it is not soured. It smells bad. It has a lousy smell.
No, there's a
point. But it smells with most. Like it was in there, and you can see this. Sometimes you leave something in a certain vessel in it, and it absorbs a weird smell or something. So Afa Pikain Hakriveyu na lefechasecha hayirtzecha hisafanecha. I think that's from Malachi. I think I may be wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Malachi. It's in the note. Malachi.
Yeah, that if you're gonna go to a king and you're gonna give him your paches, means like your least, your worst stuff. You're gonna bring a present to a king, and you're gonna bring him your garbage. Is he gonna desire you? Is he gonna lift your face? Meaning, this king he's gonna favor you for bringing such a gift. So right. So how much more so Melech Malchi Amlech HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the King of Kings, you're gonna bring him this kind of a gift. And you also do not make kiddush on wine that was open, that was left open. It was even though nowadays people are not so careful about indecent exposure anymore, like we used to be. They're not sneers. Even about their wine, they're not careful about it. Because snakes, meaning physical snakes, are not found amongst us.
Poisonous snakes.
Right. Same thing. In other words, meaning he's stressing here that this is not connected to what's written about bichlal, other liquids, that if you leave it open, there's a problem that nowadays not so much, because back then it was a normal thing that there was like snakes and poisonous things around that would contaminate it, that would make it poisonous. Nowadays, that issue that they have in the times of the Gemara, doesn't really exist anymore. So he's saying this is not connected. This is still now. Wine that sat open, we do not. What do you call it? Why? I guess because it degrades the. Even though, like we mentioned last time, this doesn't mean like if you opened it and left it to air and open. This means like it was left out overnight, which I think I don't think there's any French wine that's so needing of if it needs to be opened all night, it's not much of a wine. But
the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch is even 200 years ago, and even he, as it continues on to say, is that when my mouth bit, it's different nowadays. I mean. Yeah,
no, but that's talking about mitzvah, the poisonous. But I'm saying,
no. Even it continues.
Right, even by him, it was different already, right?
By the Alter Rebbe is even saying even by now, and that was 200 years ago. How much?
Right,
more
that
so?
Was that thing of the snakes and stuff. That was when times the Gemara.
Yeah.
But still, anyways. So
right,
nowadays
it doesn't make a difference.
Right. However, if it only was open for a small amount of time, in lahakbid kolkach, you don't have to be makbid. You don't have to be stringent on it so much. And especially in these countries, he wasn't talking about our country. Obviously, he was talking about in Russia, where kosher wine was expensive and hard to come by. It's not found so much. That even the what do you call it, the officials and officers, etc. Something of that nature. They're not even stringent on this b'diavad. That they're not that strict about it, because it's wine. Oh, look, this, as opposed to like, oh, this wine was open. We cannot drink this wine that was open. No, they were like, oh, look at this. There's wine. This is great. Let's drink wine. Can you believe it? Wine. So therefore, unless of course the amount of time it was left open changed its flavor and its smell. Now, meaning obviously to the worse, because if it opens its bouquet and it changes it for the better, then obviously it wouldn't fall under the it wouldn't fall under why you're giving him your worst. It would be you're giving him your best. You're letting it open to improve. So he's saying as long as you haven't left it open such that its flavor or smell has degraded, it's okay.
I have to say, that's why he's saying B'dafka, governors, officials, ministers, because they are used to classier wines. They're not going to be so desperate. A simple person, they're going to be like, wine is wine. What do I care? Right. I'll drink, boxed wine. What do I, what's, right. No, someone's a little classy. They have an appreciation for what's a nice wine. Even them, they're not so concerned. They left it open for a little bit. That doesn't hurt the wine. Or if anything, like we said, nowadays, especially, if anything, that helps the wine. We have and
okay,
then
notes on Aleph.
Okay, so first of all, he starts off with the whole thing from Malachi that we're talking. Gives it a little context. It's interesting, and that it's talking about the Navis rebuking the Yidden for bringing karbanos, animals that are blemished. Such an animal would not be sent to a mortal ruler. You're going to bring that to the Eibishter. And actually, we saw much earlier in Nun Gimel. Siman on Gimel, the same pasuk is used as a proof text to disqualify a chazan with glaring physical blemishes. You're gonna just it's inappropriate to present that to the Eibishter. You should try to present the best. So I gotta
nowadays we counter that by having the talis covering our face.
Exactly, throw a big talis, and maybe that's part of the reason why we say have a nice big beard. That's the beauty, because it hides the ugly, double chin. No, God forbid.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, so. I'm gonna hide. I need a bigger beard. It's not fair. Anyway, or I just need to lose weight.
No, you need one of those ones that creep up. Those beards that creep up all the way like over here. Yeah, my beard doesn't help me any.
By the way, just as a quick interruption, because I just got a text back from South Africa. Rabbi Weinberg just texted me back. He said both, meaning it's our minhag to say Ber Piragafen, just like we say on Mitzi. It's very interesting. I've never heard of that before.
Oh, interesting. So that the people who drink from the wine should say Ber Piragafen.
Meaning in my home, even if my wife's drinking from my cup, she should say her own hagafen.
But by the way, but that's interesting because in a sense that makes it important. Does that is there an inyan of pogum mitzad dat, or is it inyan of pogum only mitzad kiddush?
Should that maybe I'll ask that.
Because
Should
in
that
other words, because if someone has to make a
be
guffin,
not
is it
pogum,
important if they're drinking from your cup or not? That they're
or is
drinking
it okay if
I mean, mitzad kiddush, it would seem either way they shouldn't be drinking pogum anyway. But
to say hagafen on kiddush cup if pogum? Does that make sense? Should that then be not pogum, or is it okay to say hagafen on the kiddush cup if pogum? Is that okay?
by the way, this is a real, what do you call it? This is like what do you call it? The real upscale podcast. We have celebrity phone calls in the middle, and not bad, huh?
I will say I do feel very
we have
lucky
high
in the fact.
profile Rabbanim and answering questions on this.
I do feel very special in the fact that I feel very honored to have been involved in the fact that when I left South Africa, when I was doing smicha under Rabbi Weinberg, and I left early, I left mid-year because of my health issues that I struggle with. I asked him, I wanted to be in touch with him, and he didn't have any sort of apps or anything to text, or he said, email me. And I'm like, I don't email so much. Could you please just download WhatsApp so I can WhatsApp you? He says, and he's like, I'm not a WhatsApp smartphone guy. Just email me. And I left, and he ended up getting WhatsApp, partially because I pushed him to. And right now we're WhatsApping him. So like, the fact that I'm able to get to him right away is if I emailed him, he'd see maybe end of day or something, or first thing tomorrow. But
well, listen, that's part of your Mesa Mashiach. It's the whole world has become real time, and you have questions and answers in halacha flying across the what do you call it, the ether sphere something at face was the something sphere,
stratosphere,
yeah, whatever sphere. Anyway, so any kind of sphere works. Weiter.
I don't remember. Sorry. Anyway, sorry, my wife had a question for me off screen.
Oh.
Okay, so now it said so if it has the smell starts to go, but even if the wine itself hasn't soured at all, it's still a problem. That's based on Bava Basra. The Gemara excludes wine because of this and other factors, based on the principles that only wine fit to be offered as a libation on the altar of the Beis Hamikdash is fit to be used for Kiddush. Even if one has no other wine, should not use such wine for Kiddush. Nevertheless, if he mixes it with other wine to the extent that its fragrant is now fitting, it is acceptable. If I got some
but that's really essentially just like water.
No, but you might think, you might think that this actively works against it because, like, inappropriate, like water is inert; it's nothing; it's just a zero.
Right.
But this is like negative,
right.
Maybe
no, it's
ruins,
vinegar. Vinegar has a value. It's like water.
No,
the only thing is, it's probably going to be a lesser amount. It's probably going to be a lesser amount because water. Just al pichush, water is going to affect the taste less though. So it really will be. You can't add as much of this vinegary stuff.
No, but what I'm saying is though, vinegar has its own value unto itself. With regards to Kiddush, it's in the negative points. Right. It has positive points elsewhere. You could use such a wine for cooking greatly; it'll be amazing. But for Kiddush, it's negative. It's inappropriate. This is not the kind of wine that we put on the mizbeach. So I'm saying it could be worse than just adding something else that would just dilute it.
Right.
In that sense, I'm saying with regards
to
this.
But apparently he's saying no. It's just.
But he's saying like as long as it mixes, as to the extent it's fragrant is now fitting, meaning it's acceptable.
Right.
So you're allowed to do that as long as it's still good, as long as it can be bottled, then fine. And b'diavad, by the way, the Kaf HaChaim says if you take a used wine with an undesirable fragrance, still yaitz kiddush. Don't actually have to repeat, which is very important nafkamina.
So in a sense, it's actually better than water then, because water.
So it is better than water, right?
Because it's all good. So it's actually better than water, yeah.
Yeah. So in a way, the fact that the Kaf HaChaim says that you can be b'diavad yaitz kiddush. Yeah, it's proof that it's better. It's better than that, and definitely better than something random. Okay, now then we continue to say it. So fine. So even if okay, and the flavor are fine. You could say a Boyer Priya Guffin on it, but if it's offensive, then because it's a repulsive container, it's still not yet a kiddush. So what does that mean? The wine has begun to sour and its taste has changed. You can't say kiddush over it. But in this instance, we're talking about the wine itself is still desirable because, like you said, we put it in some bad container, some wrong, maybe plastic or gold or whatever, and it's just so yeah, the smell is off, but the wine still tastes fine. Still can't say you still, and so you can still say the bracha Bar Gafen. We're not saying it went. So meaning the bracha on balsamic vinaigrette or whatever is not hagafen anymore.
Right. In this case, if you wanted to drink, let's say you wanted to drink that foul-smelling wine, you would still have to make hagafen.
You just can't make
but
kiddush.
You should make kiddush on it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So then continue. So we said wine was left uncovered. B'chlal. You're not supposed to make it. So again, the Bava Basra and then also Trumas. So it forbids drinking liquids, eating food that were left uncovered, lest a snake or other poisonous animal drank. By the way, that's the story in Purim. That's how Bix and Aserish poisoned the water. They dropped a snake in the barrel. That's the whole thing, is where she said, where Mordechai told her, tell them to break open the barrel and they'll see. And there was a poisonous snake in there. So it's not like some, forms of media, they dropped in drops of poison. No, this, as I remember, this actually, it's based on a real medrash. I think there's one of the kids' tapes actually has that, and it's based on real thing, if I remember correctly. But anyway, so other poisonous animal drank from or ate from them, which would then deposit its venom within it. So either poisonous snake. Remember the difference between poisonous and venomous. Poisonous is meaning if you bite it, it's bad for you. Venomous means if it bites you, it's bad for you.
Right.
So either way, maybe something poisonous bumped against it, or maybe something venomous drank or ate from it, and some of its venom fell behind. So wine or other food or drink that was left uncovered in a fridge or a closed cabinet, that's not considered being left uncovered. As you can see in the Kaf HaChaim, if it's covered by its container, it's contained.
You're right. The covering doesn't mean it has to be exactly on the bottle. It means it has to be a place secured from.
Which again,
yeah.
From other things, which when I lived in Honolulu, that was the thing. We had to keep everything in the fridge, like so many things in the fridge, even that weren't refrigerator, whatchamacallit, because otherwise bugs and lizards would get to it. The only place safe was in the, it's a sealed box.
Yeah.
So yeah, plastic containers for everything. So yeah, so even if it was only left for a brief period, so how long is that? So apparently they write about 20 minutes. But b'diavad, the Badei Shulchan says wine is not disqualified even if it was left uncovered for 3 to 4 hours. Badei Shulchan says even 3 to 4 hours would be fine. And again, these are people who were generations ago, where the sealing of wine, the cork technology, and the bottles were not necessarily as good as we have today. Right. I mean, things are tighter seals than was then, so maybe even longer. But yeah.
Right, but still, even now, generally speaking, when you leave wine to open, you don't leave it for more than 3-4 hours to open. At that point, and wine actually has a window that after that it starts already becoming too open.
What I'm saying is I have left wine longer for that. Meaning, there's a wine one of my friends had made a nice wine that when I opened it Friday night for Kiddush, right before Kiddush, it was okay, and it stayed open the whole meal. I didn't really put the cork back in because people were drinking from it, little bits and that, whatever. The whole Friday night, it was hours. Okay, I didn't leave it overnight. I then put a cork in it, when I benched or whatever, and we went upstairs. The next day by lunch, when I opened it up again to make Kiddush again, it was so much better. So I don't know. Maybe
I've had
3 or 4 hours.
I've had where wine got better, but
there are some wines.
But I haven't noticed that after like a couple hours, it gets like after a couple hours of being open.
More than that, really absolutely, it'll go bad. But yeah.
Okay, right. So it depends from wine to wine.
Yeah, and we jumped in and said particularly true in these countries, which we're talking about Ashkenazic countries of Eastern Europe, and we'll see later in note 32. Where we're talking about the availability of wine at present. So stay tuned for that. Right now we're only holding note 6.
By the way, Bichlal, if you think about Russia and the times of they didn't have these French and Italian wines that were kosher.
Or
they had if you think of that that Kadamok sort of wine, that's probably sort of what the wine was like. And you know what? If you leave it out for 3-4 hours, it ain't getting any better. I'm telling you that.
Are they even able to make local wines? I guess in certain parts of Russia, sure, but
and he's going to talk soon about aged wines. But
No, I'm just curious.
yeah.
Did they ship it in, or was it more common to ship in wine from elsewhere, from other countries, or did they have local, just Russian-made, Ukrainian-made wine?
Right, I don't know. I think for the most part, the wines were more so local than there was like a place in the nearby town or whatever, a village or
Right.
you went to the big city, and there was a guy who made wine, and it was aged, meaning it was fermented. It doesn't mean it was like,
that's it.
It doesn't mean it was aged in like
Barrels and
fine oak barrels and stuff like that or whatever, and like.
Right.
Anyways,
Right.
That's the end of the notes for that one.
Yeah, that's the end of the notes. So speaking of fermented,
wine that is straight from the press. You
meaning
can
unfermented.
make Kiddush on it, meaning it's grape juice straight from the press.
Right.
And a person you can even take grapes and smush them into the cup. Now, by the way, it's you come with all kinds of problems when it's actually Shabbos. But presumably over here he's talking about even though there's with food it's a little bit like, for example, lemons and things like that. But in either case, that's a whole nother question. But we're talking about you took grapes and you squished it into a cup, and
it's Friday afternoon.
Kiddush on it.
Friday afternoon, Maria Avenue Coast is closed. Where are you going to get wine? Okay, cool.
You know what? Giant Eagle's open. You buy a bunch of grapes.
Some grapes.
And by the way, for people who are out in Yehupitzville, right? You're somewhere out there, and all of a sudden you realize, I thought we packed the grape juice. And when
you're traveling,
we're gonna have to make on a challah. No, you don't. Is there a Winn-Dixie something, whatever? Right? Is there a West Virginia supermarket open that has grapes? Go buy grapes and smush them before Shabbos into a thing enough to make your kiddush on. If you don't have beer or something like that, you can do enough to make Havdalah and also whatever. And boom, you're good. It's funny because nobody thinks about this. They go, no grapes. We're gonna have to make it on the challahs. No, go buy grapes. You're good. Anyways, right. So you see, on this podcast, we have real life hacks too. This is real valuable stuff. And that's why you should all send in your donations to the link, which we don't have because we don't have any way to receive donations. So, but think about it. And then we'll think about receiving them.
Send the vibes.
And everybody will be happy because, good vibes all around. We're like a hippie commune. Like we have nothing with, what are we going to do with money? We need your good vibes, man. And you can say Kiddush on, we call Makim Mitzvah Min HaMuvchar B'Yayin Yashan. Now, ideally, if you have aged wine, which this is better. It's higher. What do you call it? Meshubach, more praiseworthy.
Right. Well, he translates here superior quality. Yeah, of
superior quality, and he doesn't say it here. Maybe in the notes he does, but I believe in the Mishnah Berurah, he mentions that Yayin Yoshan means 40 days or more.
Yes, actually, the first note is talking about when we started off. We said directly from the press. We're saying in the Talmudic era, this term was used to describe wine that had not stood for 40 days after being squeezed from the grapes, as Mendel just said. But that was the ordinary length of the fermentation process in that era. And so it could be used for Kiddush, as seen in Bava Basra. Squeeze a cluster of grapes, i.e. directly before the commencement of Shabbos, on Shabbos itself. Squeezing said grapes for their juice would be forbidden. See, Shin Chaf, excuse me. And then you say Kiddush over its juice, Bava Bas, as you see in Bava Basra. So thus grape juice may be used for Kiddush, even though it has not fermented at all. Nevertheless, as the following clause states, it is preferable to use wine. After suffering his heart attack on Shmini Atzeres, the Rebbe made Kiddush. It was suggested for him to use grape juice instead of wine, but he refused, said Kiddush should be recited over wine. Obviously, one who is unwell but seeks to emulate the Rebbe's practice should first consult both his Rav and his doctor. Like, don't you're not the Rebbe. Don't be trying to pull that. Speak to your doctor. If your doctor says okay, fine. And you know what? There are wines that are very light, so you got to speak to your doctor. Can I have a light wine? There are people also, with medications. They, it could conflict with their medications. It cause serious problems. It's not something to play with. So you gotta find out, even for Pesach, the Seder, whatever. Make sure. Yeah. All right, Kimmel.
Yeah, and it just should be noted that when he says here Yayin Yashan is better, that he's like we said before, he's talking about fermented wine is better. Wine is
right, just more than 40 days, like just basic fermentation.
Because in other words, In other words, a $200 bottle of wine from 1983, right? Now it depends. If you really enjoy that stuff, then yeah, that's better.
Right.
But in this case, as long as it's a regular fermented wine, it could be it's a young wine. It could be if you enjoy a sweeter sparkling wine, it's more important that you make kiddush on a wine that you personally enjoy the most. It doesn't mean if it's 5 years old, according to this, he's not saying that's better. He's just saying it should be from a properly fermented wine, and then whatever you enjoy best is really what's the best thing. Not if you don't like super dry Cabernets, you don't have to make kiddush on that.
Right. I'll take a Joyvin, a little Mr. 5% Joyvin and Bar Tanura mix over some 100-year-old Malbec any day.
No, not only that. It's even I don't want to say a style. I mean, you're on the one, but if it's an old Malbec that you don't enjoy, it's really not an ideal kiddush. You're making
I don't
kiddush
like dry
something
wine. Because it's a fancy wine. Because it's a fancy wine for other people. I'm going to drink something that I'm visually going to like.
Right.
No, it's not. I'm not helping.
Not only
anything.
that, and then you end up with the same problem as we said before with the sheikha, right? With beer or yash.
Right.
That you know what I'm. You have to drink it within a certain amount. You're gonna if this wine is distasteful for you, and you're gonna make it harder for yourself to drink in the right amount of time. So it's better to drink a wine that you enjoy and that you can, and that's even if you enjoy it, but it's hard for you to drink it in a normal in the normal time. Better to get for kiddush something also that you enjoy, but that's easier, that goes down easier for you, that you can drink the whole shear. You can make kiddush on the wine that is in the mouth of the barrel.
It's 11 o'clock. People are logging in.
Oh, they are? Oh, I don't see them. Oh, because I have once Chaim's on, we'll what's it called? Actually,
that's what we get kicked off
because it's a pretty big sif. So, I guess we will continue sif Gimel. It's Hashem. I guess we'll try for this evening. Yeah, something in the 7 o'clock-ish range, Mr.
Yeah. We'll see exactly what time I can get to bed, but
we'll
shoot for 7, but maybe a little after 7.
Okay, have a great day, everybody, and sei gewünscht. I'll wait till Chaim gets on before I go off.